Hello, I am Barendipitous, and well, today, or at least the time I'm recording this video is November 18th. Today, we got a whole lot of new information about Brawlhalla, the card game, because the Kickstarter released today and will be up for the next 24 days. All right. So in this video, I'm going to go over all the information that the Kickstarter page now tells us, which is pretty much everything, just about everything we need to know about the board game and about the Kickstarter itself, the campaign, and everything. So we're going to go into all of that. But first, I also not only just want to share with you all that information, but also want to I hope to share my expertise of board game Kickstarters and the board gaming hobby in general. Because when I was talking with people like in the Brawlhalla community today and sharing my excitement about Brawlhalla the card game, there were a few comments that a couple people made that showed me that they were not at all familiar with how the tabletop board game hobby has been working. Probably the best example is there was a comment talking about there are $20 like legend packs, right? There's some where you purchase, and it comes with a bunch of like basically everything you need to play a particular legend. And there are a couple people saying, "Oh my gosh, you have to like this is more expensive than a normal skin in Brawlhalla, or you have to pay for default skins now." No. Board games work a little bit differently. What you're looking at there is something that's more like a deluxe skin as opposed to a basic skin. I want to kind of like briefly kind of share my credentials in the board game in board gaming hobby, because I feel like it's fairly extensive, and hopefully my goal with this is to if you are at all interested in Brawlhalla the card game, I personally am extremely interested in this. I will probably get just about everything. In this Kickstarter, but I want everyone who's interested in this, especially anyone in the Brawlhalla community, to be aware of what all this entails. Okay, and personally, this is certain as far as like cost and everything. I've certainly seen a thing or two in terms of cost and delivery and things like that. Before I get into things, I definitely wanted to just right off the bat, this is probably going to cost a little bit more than you a lot more than you expect. This is going to be delivered and shipped a lot later than you think it will, and the game is not, as far as I can tell, not completely finished in development yet. The core is definitely there enough to show you show us what's going on and how the game works, but still some playtesting and balancing seems to be needed. So those are things to keep in mind as well. Just kind of wanted to also show you again my board gaming credentials. This is my board gaming shelf, the one up there, and then my tabletop TTRPG tabletop role-playing game shelf over on the side there. But I want to draw your attention up top. This is probably about 90% of all the board games Cobweb and I own, and we've been building this collection for the past like 8 or 9 years, basically. We love all the games that we have. We're very, very happy to have them and everything. But yeah, this is kind of a lot of what we spend our extra like discretionary income on. This is kind of like one of our main hobbies, shall we say. A lot you can zoom in on the picture if you want to see a lot of the games we have. You'll notice a lot of our longer and more campaign games are kind of off to the side that way, and then right above me tend to be some of the shorter, faster, more party games. So we tried to organize things a little bit that way. So there is that. And I also kind of want to give you guys a little bit of perspective here. Personally, before we really get into the nitty-gritty of all this stuff in the Kickstarter, I believe that the prices on this Kickstarter they're about what I would expect, honestly. The base game, nothing else, just the stuff you just need to play, is honestly pretty cheap for a board game like this. All the other extras do add up a lot, but that is also just kind of how the board gaming hobby is, especially when it comes to producing, like, productions and like producing these things and shipping these things around the world and everything. Here is an example of a fighting board game that is up to 4 players. This is one of the Unmatched boxes, part of the Unmatched series. This is called Tales to a Maze. It has 4 characters in it and a couple of bosses you can fight co-op against, or you can just play against each other with these 4 characters. Annie Christmas, the Golden Bat, Dr. Jill Trent, and Nikola Tesla in this particular box. I have a lot of other unmatched boxes, by the way. I made another video a couple weeks ago about unmatched in general. But this is about $60, 60, which, you know, for the production value, like, this is very, very, like, very good high quality game from a good high quality publisher with a good reputation. So there's that. Also, there are some games that Cobweb and I have gone all in on with all the expansions. This is an asymmetrical strategy game called Root that takes place in a lovely little wooded forest where all these different factions with different rules and identities are trying to fight for control over the woods, basically. It may look like only 3 boxes, but there are like 10 to 12 like expansions to Root, roughly, and I've been able to fit them all in these 3 boxes, and it's a lot. About $300 for every single Root expansion at this point. Okay, all the different factions, all the different like boards, and all the bits and bobs and everything like that that you need and want to play. And I've tried my best to organize each of the different factions, so you just grab a bag and go. And then probably the most extreme case of board game Kickstarters is this thing. This is Frosthaven. This is a campaign. This is a campaign board miniatures board game. There's miniatures in here. You basically play a cooperative campaign with your friends, and you're a bunch of adventurers going through this brutal fantasy world. And this is heavy and big, and this whole thing is $250. And this is the sequel to another game called Gloomhaven, and we have that as well. So Cobweb and I are pretty serious board gamers. We have played through most of this campaign. We played through all of Gloomhaven before, and there's still some more like things in this series as well. Not as big as this, but this is the most extreme that I've ever been with board gaming. Everything else tends to be more just kind of like this, right? I would consider $20 to $30 to be a pretty cheap board game. If you're talking about a board game of like maybe about that size or something, that's pretty good. And so hopefully that gives you a bit more perspective into the board game hobby in general. I'm not talking, when I talk about the board games, I'm not talking about Monopoly or Connect 4 or Risk or Scrabble or Clue or Cluedo, depending on where you are. No, I'm talking about like, serious, like, serious board games, right? And not just like, casual stuff, which nothing wrong with those, certainly. But yeah, Cobweb and I have definitely come a long way since playing Settlers of Catan or Monopoly. So let's actually get into the Kickstarter itself. Okay, so if you type brawlhalla.com/card game, just one word, card game, or just search on the internet for Brawlhalla the card game or Kickstarter, you will find this page right here, which gives all the information. They have a goal of $15,000 within a 24 day period. You can see they're almost there, so that's good. It is extremely likely this will be a successful campaign that will reach $15,000 by the end of the 23 days. I would honestly be shocked if they didn't make that goal. And if you kind of like scroll down, like there's a little video here. If you want to click on that as sort of an introduction to the whole thing. But if we scroll down here, we start with sort of the story, which is what is this project? They start by talking about a live stream. So I'm hoping to have this video out on the morning of the 19th, and in time for you to kind of like people to see this and maybe prepare for this live stream here, which is November 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And it's not on the Brawlhalla Twitch channel, by the way. It says twitch.tv/boardgamingcrew. I'm guessing that the people behind this board game have been working with board game reviewers and to kind of make a stream showing how to play the game, what the game's all about, right? So there's that. I'm looking forward to that. Another comment, and so that's very common of like, the developers of of a board game kind of having some kind of live stream celebrating the launch of the Kickstarter or the crowdfunding campaign, kind of showing off the game as well. Also, another common thing is early pledge rewards. If you pledge in the first 72 hours, you will get a free Hattori pin. It's just Hattori and her splash art. I'm guessing, if it's any other pin, it'll probably be about, like an inch or less tall, things like that, right? Like your standard pin. I think that that's a cool little thing. I really appreciate. There are some board game crowdfunding campaigns out there that have their stretch goals or like early backing goals that are a lot more substantial than this. But I don't usually like that because then it kind of like adds more to the FOMO than there already is. So I appreciate that it's just kind of like a nice little bonus if you decide to back early. But if not, then that's totally fine. There's another way to get this particular pin if you want. You'll see on the left there's the different tiers of support. We'll go into that later. They talk about what's in the box. They kind of show what the box looks like and the stuff in it. There's going to be 6 legend character cards. So, the characters you can play as in the game are Bodvar, Hattori, Mordex, Yumiko, Nyx, and Orion. And so there's going to be a card representing each of the legends there with their main abilities and other things. Now, here's something very important. 6 legend standees. So I'm guessing these are basically like punch-out cardboard standees. You kind of put 2 pieces together, and they can stand upright on a tabletop. And that's kind of what you would put on the board itself. You see these miniatures, these little figurines right here, but the base game does not have those. The figurines are a deluxe, basically upgrade. So when people are talking about spending extra money on figurines or like the miniatures or something like that, that's not the default skin. That's the deluxe skin. The default skin in this case are these standees. This is how the base game looks, okay? I still think this is pretty cool. Like, you have these cool like splash arts represented in mostly in semi three-dimensional, and you can like play with these and move them around on the board and everything like that. So keep that in mind. Buying the base game only will get you the standees, not the cool looking miniatures. We'll get to that in a moment. 120 action cards. So each legend is going to have 20 action cards. These are cards that you have in your hand that you play and have a deck and things like that. 20 cards per legend. 20 times 6 is 120. There will be 12 KO cards. So 4 sets of 3 cards that will show 1, 2, and 3 KOs. I love that the final KO card, if you flip it over, it has the kind of like the nuclear blast KO image on it. 6 double-sided weapon cards, 1 per legend. I think this is an example of how wonderfully they adapt Brawlhalla, the video game, into a board game or a tabletop medium. So these are cards that have 1 weapon on one side and another weapon on the other side. So Bodvar's weapon card will have his hammer on one side and a sword on the other side, and they'll have a different ability depending on the weapon. And you'll be able to switch between those weapons, right? So that is an absolutely brilliant and efficient and elegant way to kind of translate that essential Brawlhalla mechanic into the tabletop board gaming space. 4 flaming sword tokens, again, like little cardboard punch-out tokens that represent the flaming sword that you pick up to pick up your weapon. 4 double-sided aid cards. These are kind of like little reference cards that show you what you can do on your turn and a little more rules information. 20-sided terrain card, double-sided terrain cards. These are going to be like you kind of use these cards to make a 5x4 grid to make the map essentially. And I think they're double-sided because they'll have an air side and a platform side. So I'm guessing you can make the map however you want. Essentially, you can customize the map a little bit. 4 double-sided damage tokens. So again, little cardboard punch-out tokens. One side yellow, the other side red to represent how damaged your legend is. And finally, a rule book. All right, so that's all the stuff that they're saying is in the base game, okay? Now, there's this thing called the Deluxe Legend set. You see you have a different box here. Instead of all the legends, a box with all the legends surrounding the logo, there's another box that has images of the legends miniatures all in a line. This is the Deluxe Legends set, which is what the box says here. It has 6 acrylic figures. So this is where the miniatures are, where you have these really cool looking, 3-dimensional depictions of the legend and their splash art, standing on the default podium basically, plus deluxe wood tokens. So those other cardboard tokens that normally would be cardboard, this Deluxe Legend set would give you wooden versions of those tokens. That's a very common thing in board games, where a deluxe version would have like wood or maybe even metal tokens in very rare cases, if you want to get extra fancy. But here it's wooden tokens along with these acrylic figures, and this would definitely cost extra. They talk a little bit about each of the legends, probably the shortest lore blurb ever for each of these 6 legends. And here you get a more of a turnaround of, I'm guessing these are just 3D renderings of the acrylic figures. I don't think we've seen what they look like physically, but I think this is the plan of what they are going to look like. Basically a 3-dimensional rendering of their splash art. And again, they're standing on the default podium, which I think is a very nice touch. And if this is how they're going to look, these are going to look absolutely fantastic. You got Bodvar, Hattori, Yumiko, Mordex, Orion. Orion looks especially good, and Nyx. All right. How to play. So choose your legend. Light attacks are represented by playing cards and playing them back and forth until you stop, and then whoever has the highest number, wins that little exchange. Knock out your opponents with heavy attacks. So I've looked over the rulebook. Heavy attacks are going to not just do damage, but they're also going to have knockback, which could potentially do even more damage. Knock back your friends to claim victory. And here is some really... I love when board game Kickstarters do this. Not all of them do, but this one does, and I'm very grateful for that. Click here for rulebook and play now on Tabletopia. Let's go to the rulebook first, okay? So if you click on this, you'll be taken to basically a PDF that looks like this, okay? And you can just sort of like scroll all of this. You'll see this is rulebook 0.7, and there are some cases of issues of grammar and things like that, right? And you'll see there's other TBD, to be determined areas here and there. But I think like the information in here, after I've looked over it, it has everything you need to know to play the game. And like pretty much all of the basic rules are there. Okay, once again, it shows the components, and it shows standees, not figures, but standees, and all the other components that we've already talked about. And it's just a board. It's basically a board game rule book. It talks about how to play. It explains how on a series of rounds, each player performs 2 actions. The game ends when all but one legend or team is knocked out. So what are the actions you can do? Well, you can move, and movement is pretty free form, although you can't stay in the air for too long. Delay is a way to... You can use an action to delay, which basically means that if you're in the air, you would fall down. And this is where the virtue of this action is that this allows you to draw cards. And you could potentially swap or recover your weapon as well. So delay is kind of like hanging back and gathering your resources to go back out again. And finally, there's attack, in which you can do light attacks and heavy attacks, and they are a little bit they're treated a little bit differently. And it goes into damage the arena. You can stand one space outside of the arena without getting knocked out. But if you go past that, you'll take damage, knockback damage for that. Talks about weapons, damage, knockbacks, and KOs, how that works, KO and respawn, and the different modes you could potentially play, and powers and triggers and how those work and what order they go in, and things like that. So I'm going to show a really nice, concise YouTube short that explains the rules a little bit better, but you can read the rule book yourself, at least the current version of it, right now on the Kickstarter page. Just click on that box right there, click here for the rule book, and you can see it for yourself. And now the really cool thing is that you can even try the game out right now, at least a playable version of it on a platform called Tabletopia. Tabletopia, if you click on this, you'll be taken to this page right here. If you've heard of Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia is basically a browser-based version of that. You're able to essentially, there's some screenshots here of what Tabletopia looks like. If you can, you will need to sign in. You can sign in with Steam or with Google or something like that. You can either play hot seat if you don't want to play online, you just want to play with one screen and you just kind of share the screen with 2 people, or you can meet up with somebody online and try this game out. You can see the rule book here as well, Kickstarter, and the official website as well, and all the other information about the game. But this is kind of what it looks like this is what it looks like when you're actually trying out the game. right? You're going to be able to handle the cards, flip them over, put them in your hand, play them, move the figurines around. Basically a digital version of playing a tabletop game. This is absolutely the best scenario because, again, not all board game Kickstarters do this, or maybe you're not able to, or whatever. This is the best way to decide if you really are interested in the game or not. You actually can play it. If you ever want to play with me, by the way, feel free to hit me up and we can try to figure out a time sometime to try this game out. But yeah, I think that's absolutely fantastic. I love that. Full access to the current version of the rulebook and the current version of the game on Tabletopia. Now, I'm not sure how long it will stay up on Tabletopia, but I'm guessing at least for the duration of the Kickstarter, and maybe even a bit after that until the game is officially released. Now, after all of that, we have reviews. Now, the people behind the game, so Maestro Media, Flyos Games, Ubisoft, all these companies that work together to make this board game possible, they've already reached out to and sponsored videos of other board game reviewers, right? You can see some quotes here, but you can also click each of these for a YouTube video, right? And there are even more YouTube videos besides just these 5 here. Now, I have taken a look at each of these. I think they're all excellent. There's even one that is entirely in French, by the way, because the game designer is, I believe, he is French as well. There's one that has like a full, like long, like unedited like playthrough, and there are a couple other playthroughs and general reviews and things like that. I think my favorite one, the one that is the most enjoyable to watch and gives a really good representation of the game, is Room and Board. I really love this one because it is really just these two guys kind of going through. Kind of doing a Brawlhalla playthrough, and they also get really silly. They get really silly with it as well. They have these little skits kind of in the middle of the video where they're kind of dressing up as Bodvar and Nyx, and those are the characters that they play as in the game, right? So it's a bit goofy. They're probably not nearly as familiar with Brawlhalla as those of us active in the Brawlhalla community, but I don't think that's really the point. It is just as goofy and silly as Brawlhalla itself is, and they really do play through the game, and they kind of like show you how it works and everything, and they give their final thoughts, and they also do some more silly skit stuff at the end. So all in all, I like this review the most because of how it demonstrates a playthrough and also just their funny antics. But all of these reviews and more are fantastic ways to kind of get other board game players' impressions of it, essentially. Also, keep in mind, I've noticed these board game reviewers have been given not a full game; they've been given a sample, basically a sample copy, essentially, kind of like an early production copy, or let's say an early access copy. Let's use gamer terms. They've been given basically a very early access copy of the game, right? Not fully finished in development, but all the basic mechanics, all the rules that are important are there. I think the main thing is that certain legends, their mechanics haven't been quite fleshed out yet and everything, right? So the reviews are fantastic. That's wonderful. Now we get into where money is important. Pledge tiers. So on Kickstarter, you can pledge a certain amount of money, and then the amount of money you pledge dictates how much you will be getting out of the campaign. So at the very basic, and so you can also kind of scroll on the side to see all of the tiers, but we have these lovely graphics here. So the very first one is Brawler, $29. I'm just going to round up to the nearest 10. So basically $30 for the base game. That's it. It just says base game. It shows everything that's in the base game. That's it. It's, the standee. There's no miniatures, no special wood tokens or anything. Just everything that's in the base game box. That is $30. That is, I think, a fantastic price for something like this. For something that's very, very replayable. The rules seem very solid. And it seemed like a really, really fun time. I have not quite played it yet as the recording of this video, but based on my familiarity with board games, things like that, I'm not worried at all about this translating the Brawlhalla video game experience into a board game experience. So for $30 you have Brawler. For $90 you have the Elite tier, which is the base game and the Deluxe Legends boxes. Now they say boxes. I don't know if they're going to have like a box for each legend here, but which might be the case. But basically, if you want all 6 of the miniatures as well as the wood tokens plus the base game, that is $90. That is quite a jump. And yeah, fair. That's kind of how the board game hobby tends to be. If you just want just the base game, by all means, I think that is very affordable. But if you want to like get the really, really cool things, that's kind of how board game Kickstarters in general get you. That's how they get me all the time. I'm definitely in the kind of target demographic for this. Just keep that in mind, okay? If you just want to play the game, Brawler is all you need. If you want the special stuff, really consider whether it'll be worth your money. Personally, I think it's worth mine, but I'm also kind of weird like that, and then I'm a huge board gamer and a huge Brawlhalla fan. So, and then finally, we have the Legend tier, which is $200. It has the base game and the Deluxe Legends boxes, so everything in the Brawler and Elite tier, plus 6 add-on Legends. So this is something that we did not know before today. 6 additional Legends are going to be made for the game as basically add-ons, essentially. We have Arcadia, Artemis, Taros, Zol, Wushang, and Val. Now this is really a delightful surprise. And so what do they mean by add-ons? Well, okay, again, if you purchase this at $200, you'll get all of these things. Everything from the earlier tiers, as well as all 6 of these Legends, all of their cards, everything you need to play these Legends with their miniatures, with their minifigures, right? Now, like many Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaigns, there are add-ons. So if you decide you just want to do the Brawler, or like a Brawler or Elite, let's say you just decide to just do Brawler, you can add a few things on. Let's say you pledge $30 for the base game, and you decide you want to add Arcadia and Val as well. You would spend $20 for each of them for a total of $70. There you go. You would just get the base. You'd choose the base tier, and then you would choose whatever add-ons you want to add on to your pledge, right? Now, I did the calculation, and basically to add on all of these Legends as add-ons, it would be more expensive than so that's why they kind of talk about a little bit of a discount, right? So if you want everything, Legend tier is the best. But if you want more affordable options, then definitely go with the lower tiers and just add on what you really, really, really want, right? So again, each of these is $20. They have the combat deck plus a miniature, plus it looks like a box to put all of them in, right? So this is kind of what some of the comments I was talking about earlier were saying, like, oh my gosh, we have to pay $20 for a default skin? Well, no, that's not what's happening here. Sure, Artemis, for example, let's say you really like Artemis. Artemis is not in the base game. Artemis is definitely an add-on. Basically, consider Artemis a DLC. Artemis is not a default character, nor is this miniature a default skin in Brawlhalla the card game. Artemis is paid DLC in this particular case. All right, that's how all of these are. Right, the base game, the base $30 game, has those 6 characters in it with the standees. Everything else is extra. The deluxe edition, the collector's edition, whatever. Right, just kind of think of it like that. They have a couple of other add-ons as well. If you want to have sleeves, like basically like little card sleeves, you want like little like card protector, like card sleeve protectors and things like that. You could do that. For $10, you would get 250 sleeves, which is enough for all of the cards in the base game. For $20, you would get 500 sleeves, which is enough for everything, essentially. Sleeves tend to be pretty cheap. That's kind of what I would expect for something like that. I don't feel like this is absolutely necessary unless you really want to. Like, I don't sleeve my board games very much. I sleeve my Pokemon cards and my trading card game cards, certainly, but I don't usually put my board game pieces in sleeves. But make of that what you will. I think if you want sleeves in your cards, you certainly could do that. And these you could do a lot worse here. You could also do a little bit better if you want to just purchase sleeves somewhere else, right? They have this neoprene terrain mat. So neoprene, if you're not familiar, a lot of like trading card game play mats are neoprene. It's kind of like almost like a swimsuit material kind of thing, like waterproof and a bit stretchy. And this is basically will sort of you can use this instead of all of the cards. Oh, you still put the cards on because you need to know where the platforms are. So for $15, you could do the terrain mat. This also feels a little bit a little bit extra to me. I'm not too interested in this myself because I have plenty of other playmats at home, but this could be something to consider, especially if you like the background art of Brawlhaven as well. And then we have $27 for a collector's pin pack. So it looks like it's just these 3 pins: the Bodvar pin, the Hattori pin, which is the same one as the early pledge reward, and the Brawlhalla logo pin. Now, as far as my experience with Brawlhalla pins, at least I've purchased a lot of pins at BCX the past few times I've been, especially the legend face ones. Each of those pins have cost $10. So this is a slight discount here, where normally you'd have this is 3 pins for $27, so a very, very slight discount there if you're interested in getting the pins as an add-on to everything else. Okay, now another very common Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaign thing is stretch goals. The goal of the campaign is to raise $15,000, right? However, if they get more than that up to a certain point, they will add more stuff on to the campaign. And currently, they have 2 stretch goals. If they reach $50,000, they will add a plastic tray insert in the box for all tiers, even like Brawler, Elite, Legend, no matter what, right? My understanding is they're basically going to be, they would use that extra money to help fund the design and production of an insert you would put in the box to help make things a little more organized instead of things just rattling around there in the box. Which would be really nice. As a serious board gamer, I like having an insert that uses the space, that gives an efficient use of space and doesn't have things just rattle around willy-nilly. And then finally, for $75,000, all the legend cards become foil. You may notice that for these playthroughs, the legend cards are specifically the ones that have it's the one with like the jagged border on it and everything. The bigger card, that's the legend card. Each legend has 1. The sample version of the game that these board game reviewers are getting had the foil version of the card, but that's only a stretch goal. That might not actually happen in the main game. But if they reach $75,000, they'll make all the legend cards become foil, which that'll just be a nice little touch. Not necessary, but I think it could be cool. The foil effect, it could kind of give a little sort of like almost prismatic or like Bifrost effect on the legend cards, which I think would be really neat. Those are the stretch goals. If I've seen some Kickstarter campaign or crowdfunding campaigns where if they go way beyond the stretch goals, then they add new stretch goals like during the campaign. These stretch goals are pretty far out there. 15 to 50 is a pretty big jump. So I don't anticipate there will be a lot more stretch goals than this. Who knows? Maybe if it's absolutely ridiculously successful. And then we have a shipping table. I really appreciate when crowdfunding campaigns do this. It basically, you look up where you're from in the world, which kind of pledge tier you're considering, and this is how much they're estimating for shipping. So if, for example, you live in the continental U.S. and you choose the Brawler tier, expect an extra $10 to $12 for shipping the game. So instead of $30, you'll probably end up spending a total of $40 to $42, right? Because board games cost a lot to ship, especially all the tariffs that have affected America earlier this past year. It really hit the tabletop gaming space hard. And you'll see, of course, unfortunately, lots of other parts of the world have more expensive shipping. And also, the cost of shipping goes up as you order more things as well. There are a bunch of asterisks, however. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, they're not able to ship to these countries. Due to high rates of packages going missing in some countries, they're not going to resend games if they go missing in these countries. And then in this country, if they have additional fees due to dangerous handling being imposed by couriers to the region. And also, they do say tariffs, VAT, and regional taxes are not included, blah, 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 that kind of thing. So, as with any crowdfunding campaign, really look at all of this carefully. It can add up, okay? Just please be wary of that. Even if you go at the cheapest tier with the base game, you're probably going to end up spending a bit more than $30. You're going to be spending a bit more than $30 on this, okay? And then talks about the team as well. So the team at Maestro Media, I'm guessing Maestro Media are basically the people behind, like, advertising the game, setting up the Kickstarter, the crowdfunding campaign, some graphic design and things like that. Flyos seems to be the company in charge of the actual game design. The game designer himself, Manuel Rozoy, I made a video about him, as well as other people kind of like in charge of the stuff around the game itself, as opposed to like the campaign or the marketing. And then of course you have Ubisoft, and you could recognize a lot of names in here. I certainly recognize a lot of there's a lot of like names and artists. I especially know Josh Kennis, the international brand manager. Anything that has to do with crossovers, he's at least very much involved in that. We have several illustrators. Jordan, Karen, RJ Jost. RJ Jost is the main artist of the graphic novel. Art director, production artist, and so forth. Really cool people. And then of course you have like social media stuff that you can click on and everything like that. Oh yeah, okay. There's some marketing design there, and any crowdfunding campaign has to have risks and challenges. As with any crowdfunding campaign, nothing is guaranteed. However, they do say we have a proven track record of delivering our campaigns to all backers with over half a dozen campaigns under our belt. And if you look more into the companies behind this, you can see that is true. So I'm not too worried about that necessarily, but just keep all of that in mind. Okay? So, sorry. There's one very important bit of information. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to get to this point. Estimated delivery, April 2027. Okay? I did say at the very beginning of this video, this will arrive a lot later than you think it will. This is very common in board game Kickstarters, okay? This is, so the Legend of Zelda movie that Nintendo is working on, that is slated to release in like May of 2027. This is estimated to arrive around that time, okay? So bear that in mind. If you back this, you're not going to actually physically see this game for a while, which is why I'm very, very grateful that the Tabletopia version is there, so you can actually play it for a little bit until it arrives. And like I said, this happens all the time. There are like a number of board game Kickstarters that I backed, paid for like 2 or 3 years ago, still have not seen everything that I paid for. I know they're coming. I don't back crowdfunding campaigns unless I am very confident that I will be getting what I would be paying for. And they do update their production and things like that. But things tend to be slow when it comes to board game development. It's just like video game development, right? How long have we been waiting for the guilds update or a new legend or a new weapon in a video game, right? Or a new patch, right? Board games can sometimes be even slower than video games. So keep that in mind, okay? April 2027 is the estimated delivery. Now, sometimes this may be an overestimate. It could arrive sooner, but just keep that in mind. It's not going to arrive for quite a while, all right? But until then, you can try it out on Tabletopia, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So let me show you a couple of YouTube shorts that describe how the game works, or how the game at least looks so far, okay? So here we have an unboxing video with one of the reviewers that reviewed the game. So we're just kind of let's see, do we have...
Have you ever played Brawlhalla, the video game? Well, they're bringing it to tabletop. I just got my sample of Brawlhalla, the card game, and we're going to see what's inside. All right, let's open it up.
Let's show you in the box. What was in the box?
What's in the box?
This is what's in the box. Let's start with the blue deck. The blue deck is our exploration deck. It's just got blue cards that are numbered. Then we have our legends cards. Each of these look freaking amazing in my sample that I got, but the metal foil treatment is actually a stretch goal for the campaign.
The foil is a stretch goal.
Each legend comes with their own weapon cards and player.
So notice on this sample here for Mordex's site, it says TBD, to be determined. On this sample version, it basically shows, this is an early access version. This is what they hope the game will look like. Maybe the production value will be slightly better than this, but this is kind of what you can expect to see from the game as far as like in terms of production, the way things look and feel, and so forth.
Decks. The decks are how you move, attack, and perform abilities in the game, and the weapon cards and character cards are your passives. Then you also get these sweet tokens of Mordex,
Yeah, these are the standees.
Bodvar, Yumiko, Hattori, Nyx, and Orion. Now this was just an early production sample, but everything already feels so great and polished. If you want to see all the final components or grab a copy for yourself, head on over to the Kickstarter page. The campaign is live.
Yeah, he's going to talk about the Kickstarter campaign. So there's that. So that's you can just type Brawlhalla card game. A bunch of videos have been coming out, shorts and otherwise. Now here there's another channel that I really like called TikTok Board Games that is very, very good at explaining how to play a board game within like a couple minutes. So let's listen to this.
This legendary game where you 3-stock your friends is Brawlhalla. You and your friends are one of many legends who have entered the arena and are ready to fight. Your goal is to be the last legend standing. Every turn you'll be doing 2 actions. Just like Brawlhalla, you can move and dash around the sky, or fight and deal damage to another legend. Whenever you deal damage, you'll choose between light or heavy. Light damage will weaken them to make it easier to knock them back, and heavy damage will be the knockback that pushes them out of the ring. If a legend ever gets pushed too far out of the map, they'll be KO'd and have to lose one of their lives. If you ever lose 3 lives, you're out. The best part about this game is all the Brawlhalla aesthetics it has. Find your legendary weapon and choose from 2 options. Every legend has their own special power and deck full of abilities. And there's even multiple modes, like a 1v1 duel or a 2v2 deathmatch. Brawlhalla is an easy and fun fighting game where only one legend can stand.
So there we go. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think, all in all, at the end of the day, again, dealing with a dealing with the, modern board games can seem like a lot, certainly, and it certainly is a lot more expensive than you might be expecting. But if you are really truly interested in this board game, and if you have the money for it, then it looks fantastic. I am very, very excited about this, and I think this is finally finally my chance to play Brawlhalla without having to have like lightning fast reflexes. Because you know how pro players play Brawlhalla? There's a strategy to it. There's calculations going on, but it's all in fractions of a second, right? And I've never been very good at reaction times that quick, right? But with a board game like this, the speed is a lot more manageable. Instead of fractions of a second, instead of making decisions in fractions of a second, you're making decisions within a few seconds, maybe 5 or 10 seconds, and that feels a lot more manageable and doable to me and a lot of other casual players as well. This is a good way for casual players to maybe feel like you're good at the game. I don't know, but also like other fighting board games, like Unmatched, Sakura Arms, and Exceed and others. A lot of this game is not just positioning, it's card management. You have 20 cards in your whole deck, okay? You're going to be drawing, and if you play the game enough times, you're going to have an idea of the kinds of cards and abilities that other characters have. And so that's kind of part of the game as well, where you have to choose whether you want to play a card, like a powerful card now, or do you want to save it for later, and then once you do play, then your opponent knows you've already played that, and so on and so forth, right? So there's very much a card management kind of strategy going on, and I really like that about fighting board games. So that's all I've got for right now for the Brawlhalla card game. I'm very excited for this. I hope this was very informative and helpful. And if you have any questions or if you want to try out the game with me, definitely let me know in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And until next time, all the best.